Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Research 101. Today's topic is talking about 3 tips to help you with your research writing because sometimes writing as part of the research is essentially the hardest bit. Getting the data is one thing, writing it all up together in a nice little story can be quite difficult, especially if it is a PhD thesis. Now, a bit of a background before we go into the actual tips is that I was able to write my thesis in about 3 to 4 months max after I collected all of my data. And I'm hoping to potentially do a writing course to help you researchers get very effective and become very efficient at writing your thesis in record time. So you're not wasting supervisor's time, you're not wasting your time, you're not getting really lethargic. You become very streamlined in writing all the things you need to do. So if that's something you're interested in, do let me know in the comments. Do let me know on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at amir.phd. But here are some tips I put together that may be part of that course. Before I go into it, don't forget to subscribe if you can. Click that post notification bell as you can see over here so you don't miss out on future videos. But in any case, let's start with tip number 1. Now, many a time you find yourself talking to a friend or supervisor or colleague about, this is how the data looks, or this is how I'm going to gather the data, or again, you see me talk about the why and how a lot, and you see yourself talking about the why and how a lot, but then when you come to writing it, you find it quite difficult. And the key kind of transition gap is the notion of articulation. Articulating from your mind down onto paper. And you find you struggle to form sentences, you struggle to think of, okay, how can you put it together? So what I thought as a little top tip is that whenever you are having meetings with permission of the other person, maybe record the audio. Don't record the video because it's kind of writing, record the audio. And then come back later and then you may be able to find nuggets of how you explain something and you can rewrite it and put it down onto paper. Because sometimes you forget how you explain something, or you forget what somebody else said. That was a really nice way of saying how this data is collected, or what does this mean, or what does that mean in terms of your research. So maybe use that every so often when you're having kind of group meetings, again, with the permission of the other people. Can you record the audio? Look through it, again, listen to it at 1.5 speed if you want to, and then take out the bits you think are really useful, and that might start to form the opening of a sentence, the opening of a paragraph, the introduction to your chapter perhaps. That's something I found that I try to do, not just necessarily think of the audio, but more just trying to remember what conversation I had and using that as a trigger to start a topic as part of my thesis writing. So again, think of that. Again, you can just use your phone. You don't have to have any kind of fancy microphone, anything like that. Just use your phone, and then you can even get it to your phone to transcribe. If you don't want to listen through it, think of some kind of transcribing app. I'm sure you can find some for free, maybe on online perhaps, or even on your iPhone apps. Sorry, I'm an Apple fanboy. So Play Store on Android, I'm sure you can find transcribing apps as well there. But yeah, think of that. Recording conversations as a top tip to help you with your research writing. Number 2 is something very obvious, but I don't find many people actually doing it. And that is actually reading the theses of previous researchers or research you find online. Now, in the UK, there's e-thesis. You can see in the description box. You can see over here as well. In other countries, you may have something equivalent. Even in your own university, if you speak to the librarians that are in your university, they'll be able to direct you to online copies of previous theses that have been published or put into the university's repository. And a lot of times we go to these theses because we're looking at, protocols or methods or how they're structured their thesis. That's very common. People look at other theses and try to look, okay, how to organize it, how to do their references. But not many people actually start to read the thesis in terms of, I don't know why I'm struggling to say thesis. Thesis? Thesis. Thesis? Because of the actual writing style. Everybody has a different writing style, but you can use that as a idea, as a backboard, as a foundation to write your own thesis. Don't know why I'm struggling, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So I think that's something to bear in mind, that there's an infinite amount of actual theses you can find, whether it's through even contacts within your own research group, other research groups perhaps. People may just let you read it if they don't want to let you have your own copy, and use that as a kind of trigger to say, okay, their style is actually really good, their linking vocabulary is really nice here, how they connected this to that, that's actually quite interesting. I want to use that kind of as an idea to relate my research together, how they formed the introduction, they're being comparative, then they're linking it together. That's also something to bear in mind. And you can use that as a strategy to help with your own writing. If you are struggling with writer's block, or you're struggling how to start, which is also quite common, learn from the best, learn from people before you. 99% of what we do is we're learning from somebody else, and we're making something new based off that. We do that for our protocols. Very often we don't really make a completely new protocol, or we don't have a completely new discussion, whether it's qualitative research or field work. However, we don't do that with writing. So I think use that possibility of learning from the writing styles of others. That will hopefully help you, as it did for me. Now, tip number 3 is something a little bit outside of the box, but it worked for me when I was doing my PhD, so I thought I'd share it in this video. And that is kind of a little exercise of writing what you see, even if it's mundane. Now, you can see over here is the picture of a graph. You've got the amount of growth of a tumor cell, and you've got the, you can say, the efficacy of this anti-cancer drug. Because my work is in this kind of space, I'll use this as an analogy. So as you can see on the line, as the concentration of this drug increases, the amount of tumor cells, or the growth of the tumor cells, decreases. Now, whenever we're writing research, sometimes we overcomplicate what we're trying to say. And sometimes you can even call it skeleton writing, where you write the bare basics, write what you see. So on the screen you can see here, you can try it right now if you want to do an exercise. What I can see here is, as this anti-cancer drug increases in concentrations, its ability to reduce tumor growth increases. Or we can say, as this anti-cancer drug increases in concentration, the amount of tumor cells alive decreases. You can see there's many variations of what we can say. And that could be a useful exercise to get your brain in the habit of starting to write what you see. Because when you write your thesis, you're writing what you see based on the data you've collected. So you just use something very basic like this, even, something that, as in the library I have over here. I can look at it and say, this shelf has 4 or 5 areas. It is compartmentalized into this topic, that topic, that topic, that topic. And even though I use the analogy of my shelf in the library, think of a similarity of what I've just said with the introduction. This class of drugs is compartmentalized into this area, this area, this area, and this area. So I've used this very basic analogy as a framework to understand how I can describe something else related to my research. So think of something within your room or within your space, and literally just write what you see and write different variations of it. So that can be useful pre-writing exercise if you're struggling to write, or if you're just about to, and then maybe go into what you're trying to write, and hopefully that can increase your productivity and efficiency by writing what you see, so you can start to collate your thesis a bit better. So everybody, those were 3 methods I've used in my career so far to help me with my research writing. I hope they help you. If they do, please do let me know in the comment section below, or find me on Instagram at amir.phd, because I'd love to see what worked and what didn't, so I can try and maybe streamline more advice tailored to the majority of you. And let's think of other topics and other scenarios where you can use this method or that method to improve your research writing, because we all know it is something that we all struggle with towards the end of our research kind of journey, whether it's a master's, PhD, or even professors writing something. So do let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe if you can. You can see it over here. Click that post notification. It would be really helpful for me and the channel. But in any case, I shall see you in the next one. Take care.